Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Michael Siggins, and I'm the founder of the Channel Pro Network. Channel Pro produces a website, events, and a monthly magazine for managed service providers and IT integrators. We're going to get going with our webinar in just a moment. We're actually opening our virtual doors and letting people stream in. I see you all coming now. Thanks so much. So you are in the right place for our Robbins webinar, and we're going to get going in just a moment. So please get comfortable. All right, great. Great to see so many people coming in. Again, this is Michael Siggins from Channel Pro. Thank you so much for being here today. We produce websites, events, and a monthly magazine for managed service providers and IT integrators. Our mission is to provide you with the info, insights, and resources that you need to run a more successful business. Our webinar today is a perfect example of that kind of information to help you in your business. Our webinar topic today is how MSPs fail to establish trust in the sales process and lose the sale every time. Our very, very special guest today is Robin Robbins, founder of Technology Marketing Toolkit. Before we begin, a few quick housekeeping items. Please get involved. We always encourage your feedback and questions. It makes for a better experience for everybody. Audience members, please ask questions via the Q&A module down at the bottom of your browser screen. We will be following up with a link to the recording. Now I'm going to turn things over to Robin. Robin, please take it away.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here. Michael, thank you for having me. And we are going to be covering a topic I think that is extremely important to any IT services firm. It really is the key that unlocks the door to getting into more accounts, charging premium fees and getting them without a lot of pushback, making the whole sales process just infinitely easier. And that is about building trust. So I'm going to get right into it. Like Michael said, please chat and ask questions. And the first thing I want to do is I want to start out with a pop quiz. I know you all love that from school, having the teacher just surprise you with this little quiz. And I'd like for you guys to answer this. And the question in the chat, that is, the question is, if you could have only one strategic advantage over your competition, what would you most like to have? And one would be, would you like to have the most competitive pricing? 2, the most complete managed services offering. 3, the most competent staff, or the best technology and tools. So I'm going to be looking here to see if anybody wants to chat. Go ahead and post that to the chat there. I'd like to see sort of what your thoughts are. We aren't going to be grading papers or embarrassing anybody like that. But which of those, if you could have, wave a magic wand and you could have one advantage over your competition, what would you most likely like to have? So Karen, I think it is, if I'm pronouncing it right, is the most competent staff. I imagine that's going to be a popular one. So go ahead and continue to put that in there. Okay, yeah, complete managed services offering. What is that? That is, you know, the most comprehensive plan, the best managed services contract, if you will, the service offering that you have, most competitive pricing. So there's one more I want to add on here, and so it was a little bit of a trick, but just to make a point, the final advantage that if you could have it, would you want to have the reputation for being the most trusted firm in your area? Now, once I add that, I'm sure that the answers are now changed, because if you're got any sense about you at all, if you had to pick one strategic advantage, obviously the reputation for being the most trusted firm in your area is the one that you would want. Because out of all of these, it's the thing that is going to help you generate more customers and more sales. Now, of course, you've got to have competitive pricing and a comprehensive managed services offering and a competent staff, and you got to have good technology and tools. All of that is absolutely true, and they may be necessities to earn the trust of your existing customers. But the thing you have to realize is when you are going out into the world and you are trying to acquire new customers, and you're doing sales and marketing on whatever level that you are, the most important thing you want to get is high trust. Because while you want to strive for excellence in service delivery and staff competence in all of those things, competitive pricing, they don't give you any advantage if a prospect doesn't trust you. So this is critical. And the second pop quiz I would have, if you agree with that statement, that having high trust is so important, then I would say, what are you specifically doing or have done in the last month, the last week, the last year to establish that high trust reputation in your sales and marketing process? And so I get MSPs coming to me all the time. I'm actually doing a keynote of DattoCom Paris, and I was on a call with their advisory board, which is made up of some of their top, most successful MSPs. And the question that was coming up, because apparently internationally they're not, they're a little bit behind us in the States, and they're out there trying to sell managed services. And a lot of them were saying, like, how do we demonstrate the value of managed services? How do we get a prospect to understand that they even need managed services? And how do we overcome the price objection? Because, you know, there's always somebody out there that's going to undercut us. And really, the true answer for all of this is to establish high trust. Because if the prospect trusts you, then they will take your advice. If the prospect trusts you, they will accept whatever price and terms you put on them. I mean, I wouldn't say it's not just a lay down, but you're going to have a significant less challenge in getting somebody to take your advice. So if you say, hey, you need managed services and this is what you need to pay, again, if there's a high level of trust there, they're not going to go shop you. They're not going to price shop you. They're not really going to question you very much. They're just going to take the advice. Just very much similar to a doctor. So if you had God forbid, you had maybe a heart condition, a serious condition, and you go to a trusted professional, a doctor that you know has a reputation for being the top of his field or the top of her field, and you have high trust there, and the doctor says, here's what you're going to do. We're going to, whether it's surgery and rehab and medication or whatever it is, you know, most people, if it's a heart condition, they're not going to argue with the doctor, not if they're smart. They're going to say, okay, doc, you're the expert. Just tell me what I got to do, and I'm going to do it because it's a life or death situation, and I trust you implicitly. So there's no haggling over price. There's no haggling over, well, can we take this part out of the treatment plan? There's no, let me go talk to 3 other docs and see if they all agree. I mean, if there's high trust, you will instantly take the doctor's advice and you will follow through on it. Okay, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, part of what I want to give you is a document that is the 12 pillars of trust-based selling. And this was actually a document that I delivered a full-day seminar on this topic alone. So there's a lot of content here. I won't be able to get through all of it, but I will tell you that this will give you some thinking points when you get done this webinar and you're looking at your current sales and marketing process. I would encourage you to go through this document and make notes and say, hey, there's something here we could change. There's something we could modify. There's something we could add on to our marketing, to our website, to our sales process to increase trust with the prospect. So this is up there. You have to go to, just go to technologymarketingtoolkit.com/build trust. And you can download that document instantly. You just got to opt in there and you're good to go. So specifically what we're going to be covering today, because I can't cover everything on these 12 pillars, I'm going to do a brief overview of who I am. I'm going to talk about why most of the sales and marketing strategies you've been using are breaking trust, and positioning you as a salesperson versus a trusted advisor. And that's one of the last things that you ever want to do, is position yourself as a salesperson. You want to position yourself as a trusted advisor. We're going to be talking about how trust is critical to getting high value clients. It's actually more important to establish trust when you're talking to high value clients than when you're talking to maybe your smaller clients, and we'll talk about why. The seemingly innocent ways that you're actually breaking trust with prospects and clients, marketing tools and strategies that create high trust, and proven ways to get even the fence sitters, the naysayers, the penny pinchers off the fence and actually buying. Okay, so I looked over at the registration list. I think they said there was about 150, 160 registered, and some of you looked new to me, brand new, and I'm always surprised to see new faces because I've been around the industry for 20 years, and I have to date over 8,000 MSPs, IT service firms, from small startups to some of my clients are 40, 50 million plus. have enrolled in our programs. We also run the largest peer group in the industry. We have 550 members, and that's growing at the rate of about 20% year over year. So very significant, high retention rate. And when I say peer groups, I mean MSPs, C-level peers that meet on a regular basis. And that's, we run the largest group. And the reason that's important is that they really are my think tank. My clients are sort of my personal, this sounds really weird, but petri dish, I guess I got to find a better way of describing it, but they are my, they collaborate with them on marketing. I find out what's going on, what's working, what doesn't work, what markets are hot. And that's really valuable information, because when you're just trying a marketing campaign by yourself, you're testing different things to try and figure out what works. But when I have 550 testing something similar or variations, the testing, it can be done more quickly, more innovation can get done, and we really see what works over time. To date, I've created over a dozen campaigns that have generated $1 million in sales for my MSP clients. And the thing I am most proud of is that we have more documented client success stories than anybody in this industry, period. So just as a quick overview, you can go to my website, you can learn more about me. But over the years, in working with literally thousands of MSPs, IT service firms, I have really come down that there's 3 levels of sophistication and effectiveness in marketing IT services. And the first level, which is the most common, right, and it's really not effective, and it's why most MSPs don't grow. It's why 73%, according to our stats that we have polled, 73% of the IT firms out there actually never get beyond $1 million. It's because all of their marketing, their website, their brochures, their approach is all about saying, here's what we do. It's there's no features and benefits, which would be the next level up, right? So this is better, but it's still inadequate, and that is selling the features and the benefits and the value of what you do. And so when you get into this realm, it's probably the top, definitely the top 20% are hitting here. The bottom 80% are the product and services. Here's what we do. That's the extent of their marketing. What's more effective than features and benefits and value is the above, meaning features, benefits, and value, but plus differentiation. So the more sophisticated, the more effective marketing that you'll see for IT services in general, obviously talks about the benefits and the value, but even more effectively, there is that level of differentiation of why you want to choose us over any and every other IT services firm that's out there in the market today. And then the most effective that trumps all of that is high trust. And that is putting in place marketing systems, marketing assets that are designed specifically to build high trust with your prospect. And I'm telling you, this is completely counterintuitive to what most of you know and think. And it's the exact opposite of product and services, because here's what you have to also understand, that if you want a radical sea change in your approach to marketing, if you don't want to just get incrementally better results, you want to see a drastic change in the receptiveness of your marketing, the acceptance of your advice and your fees and so forth. You want to not sell products and services, not all you can eat, not managed services, not cybersecurity, not value and benefits. You want to sell trust. You want to sell you, yourself, and your organization. And again, I say it's a radical sea change because, again, most MSPs and IT services firms don't think this way. They have menu boards of here's what we do, and they might have a little bit of features and benefits if they're lucky. They might have a little bit of differentiation, but hardly anybody is doing trust-based marketing. And when you create trust, it dramatically shortens the sales process. It sets the stage for productive, trust-based relationships moving forward. So, this is another thing you have to think about is marketing doesn't stop when you make the sale. And a lot of people mistakenly believe that, hey, once I get this customer, I don't need to explain myself again. We're good to go. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's probably why a lot of marriages and divorce, because, you know, people think once you got the spouse, you can stop trying. You know, you can just wear your old sweats, get fat, get ugly, smell a little bit, not brush your teeth, and still expect that person to be around, like ignore them, not, you know, not show appreciation. Well, guess what? That's why a lot of marriages do end in divorce. So when you do trust-based marketing, it establishes the high trust from the very beginning, so that the relationship is really based on a solid foundation. But you don't want to just stop there. You want to continually build trust throughout the relationship and do things that maintain that trust, or it can break down over time. It also creates compliance with your recommendations, which allows you to help the client better. Because again, if a client trusts you, if you say jump, they say how high. And I am fortunate that I have that relationship with a lot of my clients, and I don't mean it in a degrading way, but when I have a number of clients that just trust me. So when I say, here's a campaign that I think you should use, or here's a strategy, they don't sit and ask me 100 questions about it. They say, okay, got it, and they go do it. And one, it makes for a very much more productive relationship, because they actually do more marketing, they get it done quicker, they get better results, they're happier with me, and then the trust continues to go on that way. So if you've ever experienced it where you've given a client advice and they've not taken your advice and then suffered from it, you understand that the whole "I told you so" conversation doesn't go very well. It makes for a very dysfunctional relationship where you can't do your best work for that client. It eliminates or reduces price sensitivity when there's high trust, and it also fuels referrals. Because when you have, when people trust you, they actually feel more comfortable referring you. And believe it or not, you can have a client who's paying you money who actually won't refer you because they don't feel they don't trust you. And that sounds crazy, but if you think about it from yourself, there's probably people that you do business with that you still write a check to them every month, but you don't have the relationship where you feel you could trust them enough to refer them. So this is a really, really big topic, and it's one you want to pay attention to. So now I want to talk about some of the ways that MSPs destroy trust without even knowing it. But Michael, I just want to pause real quick. Do we have any questions I need to address, or do you want to have me underscore anything that I've talked about?
You know, it was interesting. So great stuff so far. I was really thinking about the trust, which I know impacts everything here. And, you know, I don't want to jump ahead, but I was thinking a lot about the trust that you were just mentioning, and how it's critical to all of our businesses. But like trust is, I see trust as being built with clients, you know, based on a relationship. A lot of what we're going to talk about today is sort of marketing to them to get new clients. And so does that sort of establishing trust, or trying to develop someone's trust in you, also convey into the marketing efforts you do to get a new client, to build a trust before they're even a customer?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, most people, you know, I had a guy one time who's really frustrated, you know, came to us for help. MSP, you know, classic MSP, smaller guy. I think he was about $1 million in revenue, maybe $2 million or something, really wanting to grow, trying to get marketing done. And he was just frustrated beyond belief, because he had invested a considerable amount of time and money and effort into building what he thought was the best managed services offering in his area. And this is what was frustrating him. He said, like, you know, a lot of his competitors were not doing the things that they were supposed to be doing. They were not like checking the backups the way they should, or putting cybersecurity protocols in place for the MSP themselves. So they're the shoemaker's son walking around barefoot trying to sell shoes. And it really frustrated him. He said, you know, because of this, we charge more, and they're not delivering the level of service. And all I got to do is get them to try us. And if I could just get, you know, if they'll just try me or try my service, I could show them how great we are. And see, what I had to explain to him is, I love that you did all this work to get your service to where it is. And I do believe service marketing starts with the service, but you can have the most brilliant service, the most comprehensive offering, the best qualified technicians. But if you can't convey that to a prospect so that they trust you, you never get the opportunity to shine. You never get the opportunity for them to experience what you can do for them. And this is where a lot of MSPs get hung up and stuck. And that's because they don't know how to do marketing that establishes trust. And let me do this, Michael, because I think actually, if I go through this next slide, this may kind of reveal some things that you're doing that is actually lowering or destroying trust, and you might not even realize it, okay? So Michael, just jump in if you see something or say something or have a question or a comment from anybody.
Will do.
Okay, good. So yeah, so the first one is incongruent or inconsistent behavior with your position. So a lot of MSPs, and it doesn't matter, it could be IT services firms, they promote that they're the most proactive, competent, responsive provider, and yet if you try to call them on the phone, you'll get voicemail almost 80% of the time. Okay, so they're saying we're responsive, we're proactive, but they don't answer the phone. And you might not think this is a big deal, but I can assure you it is a very big deal. Most companies are firing their current IT company for lack of response. And when they're calling to find a replacement, when they get voicemail, they just Google the next one and call the next guy and call the next guy until they get to somebody who actually will answer the phone, who actually can have a conversation. Because here's the other part. And because I've done this, and so we have secret shopped hundreds, I'm talking hundreds of IT firms with the permission of the owner to see how a call would be handled. And we would call in and play customer. And like I said, 80% of the time, we can't even get to somebody. Very often, the phone system is broken, so you can't even leave a message, or the voicemail box is full, or you end up getting to a tech department where somebody's like, I mean, I wish I had a nickel for this answer. Every time they call in, they're like, you know, we give them a script. I'm a law firm. We've got 40 employees, 2 locations. We need a firewall installed. Can you guys help us? And what do you charge? That's we do the secret shopper script. And so you would be amazed at how many people say, sorry, we can't help you because we only do managed services, and then proceed to give the name and phone number of a competitor. It's insane. And this is like a prospect calling in trying to give you money, because a lot of prospects don't know about managed services. I mean, they just call in with here's the problem I have, and a what do you charge is kind of a throwaway question because they don't know what else to ask. So when you're saying you're the most professional, you're the most proactive, responsive company, and you don't answer your phones live, you're full of shite. You know, you cannot say that. Or you say you're the most credible, trustworthy, and you've got no online name, there's nothing out there. Or you send out really cheap, low quality marketing materials, or your website doesn't work. So these are all signs that break trust, and you might not realize it, but it does have a big, significant impact. The other thing is lack of confidence or authority position. So when you get in front of a prospect, you talk or behave like a nervous, needy salesperson versus a busy, in-demand, trusted advisor, okay? So like you get in front of the prospect, you do whatever it is that you do to assess their network, and you say, okay, here's the plan, here's the proposal, right? And the worst is you email the proposal over, which is the absolute worst positioning, because if you're providing a quote or a proposal, those are salespeople's language. So you got to even change your language. When I teach my clients to do is put together an action plan, or if we're doing an assessment, it's a report of finding. It's not a quote. And we certainly don't email it over, because think about it. If you went in for a serious condition to a doctor, the doctor doesn't just email you, here's what we found and here's what I recommend we do. We do open heart surgery. I mean, nobody would do that. At least no competent, qualified professional, because that's what salespeople do. So you got to be very careful in just even the sales process to make sure that you are not, you're just not emailing it. The other thing is quoting fees. A lot of people are very uncomfortable about talking about fees, and so they hide it and they dance around it. I coach my clients in the very first meeting. You want to have a price discussion before you even put together a proposal or do anything else. You guys know on average, you know, you meet with the prospect, get an idea of what they need, get an idea of what their buying criteria is, what success looks like, and then you float a price. And it might be, you know, based on a network of your size and the scope of this project, it could be anywhere between $1,000 a month and $5,000 per month. You know, are you prepared to spend that? Is that completely out of the ballpark for you? Something like that. You don't have to give an exact dollar amount, but you need to float price. And avoiding the discussion about price, or emailing a quote, or being too quick to provide a discount, or letting a client negotiate your contract with you where they take out certain pieces. You see, all of that is salesperson behavior. That is not how high-end consultants act. And so you got to be very careful there. The other thing is no celebrity and no differentiation. And if you look and sound and act like every other IT firm, and your pricing is middle or low range, you know, your marketing does not leave the prospects with the impression that they're dealing with a high-end, knowledgeable, legitimate authority. And so you have to be able to articulate reasons why your approach is different, why they should hire you, why your fees are higher if they are, right? So you have to have that, and we'll talk about some of the specific ways to do that in a minute. And the other thing is you're just the best kept secret. So there's no consistency in marketing. You're not doing newsletters. You're not doing any kind of outbound promotion. There's no awareness. It's like the empty restaurant parking lot. So, you know, I think we've all had this experience. I just had this recently. There was a new restaurant opened up, and we decided to go check it out. So we drove by it was a Friday afternoon, like a Friday evening. And my husband and I had the two kiddos in the back, and we said, oh, well, you know, worst case, if we can't get in, we'll just go to another restaurant down the road. But we wanted to try this place, and we pull up, and there's literally no cars in the parking lot, like maybe one or two. And so we're sitting there, and the first thing my husband says is, "Are they open?" You know, and I'm like, because it's Friday night, and I said, "Yeah, they're open. I can see people mulling around in there." And we were both very nervous about actually going in because it was a Friday afternoon or Friday evening. It wasn't real late, but, you know, dinner time, 5:30, and no cars in the parking lot. So that instantly made us, we actually decided not to go there. I said, you know, let's just go down to the other place down the street. This is kind of making me nervous. And that's exactly how most prospects are going to react if they pull in, you know, to your web parking lot, if you will. They search for you online, and there's no testimonials. There's nothing to build trust and credibility. There's no authoritative positioning. There's no differentiation. It's no different than that. And again, you're going to get shopped on price because you look like everybody else. All right. So next, I'm going to get into the connection between trust-based marketing and high-value clients before I get into some specific recommendations. But Michael, anything I need to cover on that or go over?
No, I just wanted to sort of reinforce something that we see so much with when we do our events, and we interact with, you know, thousands of MSPs a year as well too, is you on that one bullet you had where some MSPs may be afraid to mention price and all that. It saves you, the MSP, and your customers so much time if you can give that sense of pricing based on what are their specific needs. You know, what size firm are they talking about, what services? Because if you can find out ahead of time what their budget might be, that may be way off from where you even begin. So it can save you time and their time if they're just either kicking tires or they have no intention of ever spending on the types of plans or services that you offer. It's another sort of enthusiasm killers to have your sales team proposing proposals that are dead on arrival because the client doesn't expect something for that level. That's just a waste of everybody's time. So I know we like to reinforce that a lot too.
Exactly right. And, you know, the prospect and you both know you're not doing this for free. So why, you know, and I think that dancing around price, for whatever reason, you don't like to talk about it. It's mostly, what it really is mostly due to is it's a fear of selling. It's also a lack of confidence in your offering is really where a lot of that comes from, or a lack of confidence in asking for money. Because, you know, we're told from the time we're knee-high to a grasshopper that you shouldn't ask for money, and you shouldn't talk about money. At least, you know, that's what, you know, my upbringing was, you know, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. But when you don't talk about your fees and you look awkward, what the prospect detects is discomfort, and what that tells me is you're lying or you're hiding something. That's what we tend to think, and it breaks trust instantly. And sometimes it's not even conscious. A lot of communication is subconscious, and I'm sure we've all had that experience where you're talking to a vendor, or maybe you're interviewing. This happens quite a bit when I interview people, and you get a gut sense, and you hear what they're saying, but something is just not. They're not passing the smell test, and there's something here that just makes you go, yeah, I don't feel comfortable. And most buying decisions are based on how you feel about that person, about that service, about that product. And it goes back to, selling really is based on emotion and justified with logic. And your service offering must have logic. I mean, it can't be illogical, but what's going to make the difference between you getting a contract and somebody else is really going to come down to how that prospect feels about you. And that feeling, what we're really talking about, is trust. They either feel like they can trust you, they feel like you're the right choice, or they feel like there's something that's amiss. And this is why you often lose sales to cheaper competitors, because if MSP A looks like MSP B, like C, if we all look the same, but one guy is 20-30% cheaper than everybody else, it's hard to ignore, because given no other logical reason upon which to base their decision, prospects almost always default to price. Okay, and that's really something you've got to take home and really embrace. And then there's also a connection between trust-based marketing and high-value clients. So the higher up the chain you go, meaning the bigger the contract, the bigger the project, the more trust plays into this. And there's reasons for that. Because if you look at an affluent buyer, I'll call them an affluent buyer, but we're talking about these larger MSP deals, right? Wealthy buyers are far more reserved about who they trust for a couple reasons. One is that if a mistake happens, it's more visible, and they fear the embarrassment of looking stupid or making a foolish decision. And two, they believe they have more to lose than the average business owner. And this is true because as a CEO grows an organization, if you're a small 2-person company and you get a hack, a cybersecurity hack or something like that, it's not good, but it's not as visible as if you're the CEO of a hospital, or you are running a very well-known, let's say, pick any company in your area where a lot of people see it and know who you are. And so as the company grows, the CEOs, they know that they are more visible, and one big mistake, all fingers are going to be pointing to them, and they do have more to lose because they feel they have more revenue, more clients, more systems, more people depending on them. They are a higher risk. Whether that's true or not, that is the perception. The other thing is wealthy buyers will knowingly pay more for a product or service if they know the job will be done right, because it saves them enormous time and frustration and embarrassment of cleaning up a mess. And this is why you get a lot of small business owners shop on price, because the reason they're small is they're not very good at making value judgments. I mean, that's one of the reasons, and so they're always trying to buy the cheapest of everything. But when you get somebody who's been successful in business, you don't get to be successful in business by, discounting and penny pinching and getting the best deal on everything. Not to say that somebody wants to overpay, but they know, a more successful CEO knows that if I can trust this person to do a good job, I will pay more knowingly to get that guy than somebody else. Like, for example, we run events all over the country, and we've got a company that we've been using for the past 6 or 7 years that runs our AV, and we could save easily, we could save $100,000 a year if we went with just the hotel AV or a cheaper provider. I know that for a fact. But these events are so critical, and since how smooth it runs affects our customers, it affects the experience they have, it affects my stress levels and everything else, we knowingly pay more because this AV crew does a top-notch job. They've been working with us for 7 years, and yeah, we pay more, but it's because we know they're going to do a good job. There's trust there. Value, the rich are not motivated by bargains or cheapest price. In fact, if you're trying to go after bigger deals, being too cheap actually creates skepticism and uncertainty, because you always wonder, why the hell is this so cheap? All right, so you got to think about that. Everybody always thinks about, they have the stench of the objection, of price objection, hanging all over them. And so they go in with this baggage to every sales meeting. They go in with this baggage of assuming that they got to defend their price. And if you have that in your head, because of all the people that you've been dealing with, all these cheapos and penny pinchers and everything else, which may not actually be a price issue, it may be a trust issue cloaked as a price issue, which is probably more real. But if you go in with that baggage, you start acting different, you present different, and you can actually put somebody off by actually being too cheap. The other thing is ego, because wealthy buyers have a psychological need to feel superior and purchase things that others can't. So if you are going to sell to high-end buyers, you also really do need a luxury high-end service or solution that identifies with their self-image, right? So celebrity, exclusivity, like you could, part of the marketing strategy for some of my MSP clients, it's like a challenge to their prospect. They're saying, look, we're not for everybody. If you're a brand new startup and you're working on a shoestring budget and a wing and a prayer and you're just trying to get things going, you're not very entrepreneurial, you're sort of like your classic small business, we're not for you. We are for the very high, fast-growing entrepreneurial CEO that is looking to take a company well into the 1 percentile to own and dominate a market, and who's very time pressured, who's not, can't afford to screw around babysitting vendors. They need people who are competent because they're growing their business quickly. And that's who we service. So you can even use it as a way of challenging a prospect to identify who they are and buy from you because of who you are, not just because of the price. So again, all of these things I've outlined just as a reminder. I put this in here again because I know people have been piling on, but this 12 pillars of trust-based selling is what we're going to build off of, right? And there's 3 key areas we need to look at, which is marketing tools, media, which is how you're introduced. Media is just how you deliver your marketing communication to your prospect. Media is, Facebook ads or LinkedIn prospecting or direct mail or telemarketing or email or search engine optimization or radio ads. So media is just the message vehicle, if you will. And of course, the sales process, and again, there's a lot more depth to this, but I'm going to just touch on all 3 very briefly. Michael, let me just check in with you. Are we good with questions?
I got a couple I want to throw your way while we're still, in the neighborhood of those slides. Okay. One was you had used a couple of terms, strategic words instead of like proposal or quote. We got some requests for you to reiterate what those were. If you could remind us of those.
Well, report a finding. So like a lot of let me kind of back up. So one of the ways, if you're going to be doing marketing to get in the door of new clients, you need an offer. Now this is marketing 101. This is marketing kindergarten, yet most people aren't even here, right? But you've got to have an offer to get in the door and engage with that prospect that transcends immediate need. Now, you guys should write that down. You need an offer to get in the door that transcends immediate need. And what I mean by that is if on your website, you've got, we do managed services, cybersecurity, phone systems, whatever it is you've got, and you got a phone number, call us for a free consultation, maybe it is, or, just you got a phone number. You don't even have that, free consultation. Wow, that would be like amazing, right? But you don't even have that. You got a phone number. I have to be ready to buy or near ready to buy in order to respond to that. And the majority of the marketplace is not there. There's a whole group of people who are thinking about and getting ready to look for a new IT provider, but they're not ready to pull the trigger yet. And you miss out on all of those people if you don't have an offer to get in the door. All right. And that's really what offers are. It's a way to build your list. It's a way to engage that prospect early on so you can educate them and shape their buying decision so that you become the obvious choice regardless of price. And so one of the offers that one of them, is we offer a cybersecurity risk assessment or an IT audit or something like that, because we want to have something that transcends need, because they don't need to have switch IT providers to get a cybersecurity assessment, and we want to deliver something that the prospect actually feels will deliver value even if they don't do business with you, right? So if you go in with that approach, when you come back after doing the assessment, when you come back to them, you don't want to come back and say, hey, I got a quote together for you, because that's salespeople's language. We call it a report of findings. And so you say, I got to have a meeting to go over the report of findings. And if you want another term, and an action plan for how we're going to remediate what we've discovered. Now, the action plan can be basically a proposal. It's like, here's all the things we found wrong. Here's all the recommendations we have. Here's what we think, you need to put in place, or you have us do, and then here's what we would charge to do it. All right, that's the action plan, but we don't call it a proposal. So you can call it something else if you like. Again, most of my clients, I would just get away, whatever you decide to call it, just get away from calling it a proposal or a quote. Because again, that's salespeople's language. Does that answer the question, Michael?
Yep, perfect. And one other one that was kind of nice and related to that slide before too was Drew's asking if he'd love to hear an example if you're in the middle of your meeting and kind of the pitch and about what your services are. And then the client says, wait a minute, interrupts, how much does all of this cost? He's wondering, do you answer it straight away? And you did kind of refer to that during a little while ago, or do you try to deflect it so you can come back and show them the value of things first?
Well, it depends. I mean, if it's early on, my answer to that, and I don't know what the situation is, I don't know what they're looking for. If they say, what's this going to cost? And and again, rolling back, this is in the initial meeting, because in the initial meeting, all you should be trying to do is figuring out what is the need, what is their buying criteria, right? What's the problem? Why are you there? What's the problem that's going on? What are they unhappy about? Where are they today, point A? And what does point B look like? What does success look like? If you hire us, where are we trying to get to, right? And so if I'm initially meeting with a prospect and they're saying, how much do you charge? My answer would be, well, may I ask you a couple questions to get an idea of what's going on here because I can't answer that. I don't even know what's going on yet, right? I can't quote you a price if I don't even know what you're trying to accomplish, what the goals are, what the problems are. So if they ask it really early, that's what I'm going to say. May I ask you a couple questions to get a better idea of what's going on here? Now, if they're a reasonable prospect, they're going to say sure. And then you just ask your questions. And then, yes, then you would give a ballpark price. But if, what he's saying in the middle of your pitch, see what what my spidey sense is telling me what's happening is he's going in, he's talking to a prospect, he's finding out whatever he's finding out. He goes off, he's creating some kind of proposal, he's coming back in, and he's sitting down with a 50-page document of all the price. And then he's trying to sell. Here's the value, here's the bad, we do this, we do that. And the prospect, of course, is sitting there going, just tell me what it's going to cost. This is why you don't want to email your proposal, because they ignore everything and go right to the price. And this is also why you want to scratch that itch in the first meeting. So the first answer that if it's in the first meeting and I don't know anything, I'm going to respond saying, I can't give you a quote. Can I ask you a couple questions so I could get a better understanding of what you need and what you're looking for, and then I can talk to you about price. If they're like, no, just tell me a price, they're being unreasonable. Get the hell out of there. They're not qualified. I mean, they're being an a-hole. That doesn't even make sense. Of course you got it. Go into a doctor and say, Doc, I want to know how much it is to fix my heart. Well, the doc's going to look at you like you're a lunatic. He's like, well, I don't even know if you got a heart condition. Why don't you sit down? Tell me what's going on. Let me run some tests. Let me take your blood pressure. I'm going to listen to your heart. What are the symptoms? A doc has got to, you can't prescribe before you diagnose. And if they're being that belligerent, then get out of there. Say, I'm sorry, I don't think we're a right fit for you, and you get yourself onto another prospect. But if it's what I said is you're going in, and you're trying to pitch them in the second meeting or something, so you're doing it all wrong. In the first meeting, I'm going to sit there, ask them questions, get an idea, get an assessment, and then I'm going to tell them. I'm not even going to ask what's your budget, because I mean, let me say I won't say I never ask that, because it's very situational. It depends, because if they're coming to me with a very specific project, I might, and it makes sense, then I might say, well, what's your budget to get this done, right? And they will give me an answer. It just, again, it depends. But if they're coming to me, and even if I ask that and they say I have no idea, I'm just going to tell them the price. I'm going to say, well, look, based on what you're asking, this is going to run you somewhere between X and Y per month, or a project like this is going to start at $50,000, and it could range up to $110,000 based on what you're looking for, and how much it is depends on this variable or that variable. And that's exactly how I quote. I don't put together proposals ever. Ever. I've not done it. I won't do it. I don't let my salespeople do it. I put together contracts, and the contract is what we have it's a written summary of what we verbally discussed. So all the negotiation is done verbally. And then I put together a proposal, if you will, but it's really just, here's a summary of what we have verbally agreed to. Here's what we will do. Here's what you will do. Here's the time frame. Here's the price. And that's it. So if you're getting that pushback, it's probably because your sales process is screwed up. And I would say you want to float that price before you even start putting together any proposal, and do it in a way that it's very natural and comfortable. And you have to get over your hangups about talking about price, because again, you're giving signals that you're lying or you're hiding something, which is not, that's antitrust. So it was a great question. I hope I answered it for whoever asked it.
Yep. Sounds good. All right.
Good. Okay. All right, let's keep marching on. So the three areas we're going to look at first is marketing tools, okay? So the most important trust building marketing assets and tools to create, and I'm saying they're not campaigns. These are, if they're done well, they are truly an asset to you. One is a self-published book. We are trained as a society that authors are instantly more credible, more trustworthy, more authoritarian than the average person walking around, because salespeople don't create books. I mean, technically they do, but the world doesn't perceive it that way. And if you actually look at most business books written by business gurus, they're really, what they are is they're a sales letter. They're a marketing piece. They're not a educational piece. Now, if they write it well, it feels like education, but really what they are is a credibility piece. So a self-published book is one. Special reports, white papers, and articles, that's another way of building trust and elevating your status to one of an authoritative expert. Research and trend reports on the topic of expertise. So like we regularly poll our members, and we can tell you numbers and metrics on sales and marketing and profitability and growth and everything for the MSP industry, which puts us in a position of an authority on the subject. And quite honestly, we are. But nobody would know that if we weren't publishing this information. Guarantee or a risk reversal is another one. If you can guarantee some part of your services or in some way reduce the risk of doing business with you, that builds high trust. Like our Toolkit, we have a 2-year money-back guarantee. I mean, that's incredible. And because I say, like, you got 2 years. Well, the first one's unconditional. The second year is conditional. First year, for any reason, doesn't matter. It could be you don't like the color of the binder. I don't care. In fact, I don't even look at them. So you just request a refund, and we send you every penny back. And I've been doing this for almost 20 years now. Do we get refunds? Yes, we do. Do we honor them? Every single time I cheerfully honor that refund. Every time. You can't find, if somebody says I didn't, they're flat out lying, because I'm squeaky clean about this, because I believe in my product. And I believe if they get it and they examine it, they're going to see value. And if they don't, they get their money back. So that way we part as friends, no harm, no foul. That shows a high level of credibility. It shows confidence in my services, and it reduces the risk, which builds trust, because a lot of people, they're afraid to buy because they're afraid of basically making another mistake, because switching IT providers is a very disruptive and painful process, more than you think. Because me as the business owner, I've got to go back and fire my current IT company, which there may be high level of fear there, because they might be holding me hostage. They might have all the passwords. I might fear retaliation. Then there's also the uncomfortable conversation to have when you're firing them, because maybe they've been their IT company for 5 years. And, you know, the IT company's going to look and say, hey, you know, remember that time I came to your house on the weekend and I got that virus off your kid's laptop? And you remember the time I showed up on Sunday afternoon and built the network, you know, all these. And so there's a lot of guilt. So you got to understand, like, if I'm going to switch IT providers, I got to have a high level that I'm not jumping from the frying pan back into the fire where things are going to get worse. And most people underestimate that hurdle that they have to get over. And so a guarantee of some kind of risk reversal goes a long way. Repeat media, newsletters, magazines, particularly if it's offline, raises your trust. A large quantity of quality testimonials is key as well. Any kind of proof of expertise or credibility that you have as far as awards that you've won, years in business, and a high quantity of positive online reviews, and then a shock and awe box, which is I call my secret weapon for closing sales, which I'll get into that a little bit more. Some of you might be like, what the heck is a shock and awe? And I'll explain what that is in a minute. So these are marketing assets that you want to make sure you focus on in order to build trust. Because let's look at the book example, okay? So if you were using a book to promote your services, and this is a book by a client of mine, Peter Verlezza. He actually is in its second edition, Hassle-Free IT for busy medical practices, a medical practice guide to finding a professional, competent, honest, considerate, on-time, fairly priced, and dependable technology consultant, and featuring HIPAA, creating a culture of compliance. Like, if you gave that away at a networking event or you mailed it to a prospect, think about the impact that's going to have versus if you mail them the postcard that's on the right. PC or Mac issues, cures for viruses, spyware crashes, HIPAA, and more for medical. 50% off hardware and software, free diagnostic, right? Which got the little asterisk next to it, which is the bullshit detector, which means there is small print somewhere, go find it, right? Which immediately sends a worry signal up because it's saying free, but there's a little asterisk. You know, that's an instant credibility and trust killer. So as you can tell, I mean, obviously having the book is going to be better positioning, more authoritative positioning, and it's less likely to get thrown away. If you get that postcard, most people are pitching it. People get a book, they're not likely to throw it away. They're likely to hang on to it, keep it, read it, and there's an entirely different experience than the postcard. And if you look like Peter Verlezza, I got this little case study from him. That's the front and back of the book. The book has been a big credibility builder. I often tell people I wrote the book on managing medical practices technology, and then I whip out the free, hassle-free IT for MD. And while haven't tracked the specific results, I know I've closed sales because of the book. And the author title has gotten me speaking gigs with the Medical Group Management Association across the country. In fact, Peter now sits on the board of one of the Medical Group Management Associations in his area. And that is significant. Trust me, if you're sitting on the board, they don't let vendors sit on the board. But it's because of this positioning that it has helped him. Another client of mine, Bruce McCulley with Dynamic Edge, he wrote a book called Plagued, and it came out October of 2017. But he's using the book to get speaking engagements and talk about HIPAA, talk about cybersecurity. And in addition to the $60,000 in new MRR, he's closed at least $500,000 in project work. And that's just since publishing it. That was, last year, or since those numbers, that was actually from the end of last year. So I'm sure that has grown. His goal is to hit $2 million in new sales for the book, using that as a marketing tool. Or you look at like Greg Hanna from TOS. He's another very good client of mine. My book gets me instant credibility. It's elevated my professional status. And because of the book, we have generated lots of referrals from clients asking for a copy to give to their friends. And they always ask for a signed copy. See, now think about this. What salesperson ever gets a prospect coming to them saying, could I get a signed copy of your business card? Or can I get a signed copy of your proposal? Like, nobody. So because you're a salesperson, and so you're like lowest man on the totem pole. But when you're an author, you have such a higher level of expertise and credibility that it makes the sale go faster and easier. And if you don't have a book, you can publish free reports or special reports on the same or similar topics. Now, before I move on real quick, questions, Michael? I know I'm going over a little bit on time here.
Yeah, no, nothing worth interrupting you at this point, but yeah, I just got an eye on the clock and I want to make sure you cover everything you want to cover today.
Okay, let me keep going. So I talked about shock and awe. So if you're, a shock and awe box is basically a marketing campaign. It is actual box. Now, some of my clients use a folder, but it is a package of marketing material you send in advance of your first initial meeting with a prospect. So it's not a prospecting tool. It is a marketing asset that you give to a prospect. You book the appointment and before you go out, and it's designed to pre-sell your prospects. So you're seeing some examples here. Some of my clients will even put mugs with logo mugs and candy in it, but they'll put things like self-published books, copies of their newsletter. The one you can see in the upper left corner there from KI Technology, there's a cassette, there's a CD case, and inside is an audio interview of Linda Lynch, who was the owner of KI. She sold her company, but she was a client of mine for years. There's her 100% no hassle guarantee and client bill of rights. There's a free report. There's a big testimonial book. And so when you think about it, that's going out in advance of a meeting. So before Linda even shows up, they feel like they're meeting this celebrity. And it has really good content, just like the one you see Fred Sagister down here in the lower left. He markets exclusively to dentists, hence the tooth, right? You know, and dental practice bill of rights. There's a cover letter. There's copies of his newsletter. There's his self-published book. All of that is in that shock and awe, and it's sent in advance of a sales meeting. And if you really want something that's going to help impact your close rate, this is it. Now, we're going to keep moving on. The second part I want to look at is marketing media. So we talked about marketing media being the way people get introduced to you and how you get your message in the hands of your prospects. So how you're introduced matters. So trust building marketing would obviously be a referral, but a referral by an authoritative or trusted individual, because some people, you know, carry more weight than others. Strategic partnerships or endorsed mailings, that's where you would get another non-competitive company to endorse you to their customers, their members, or an endorsed mailing is where they're actually emailing or mailing, physically mailing a letter to endorse you to their customers, to their members, to their subscribers. Celebrity appearance, like doing a book signing, or if you get on TV. A number of my clients are very good at getting TV exposure. A number of my clients who publish books then have book signings. They take pictures. Being known in a community. So being on an influential board position is also very good, or an association. Or if they discover you, meaning they find your book on Amazon or they see you speak, that is more trust building than if you're prospecting them research reports, trends, data, strategic positioning, opinion pieces about like cybersecurity or about technology and what people should spend on technology. Untrusting ways, random spam email. This is a big one. I was just talking to a guy this morning who is trying to get his MSP. He's doing a compliance, you know, he said we're doing email broadcasts to get prospects, and I said, well, where are you getting the emails? Have they given you permission? And it turns out some of them were, but some of them were a little sketchy. You know, you don't want to purchase email lists or scrape emails and just spam people, because, I mean, if anybody knows how unsecure email it is, it should be the group I'm talking to. Do I really have to teach this? You know, and you're sending out random spam email from people that don't know you, who have not given you their email address, and you're saying, hey, buy our IT support. You're not going to get very many people rolling out the welcome mat. Social media ads and messages, it can be done right. Most of it's not done very well. But social media, low trust, because it just, you know, like Twitter and some of the, you know, just the negativity in some social media and the scams that happen on social media, a random cold call with no reason. So there are ways to do telemarketing. I'm a big fan of phone calls, but they got to be done correctly. There's got to be a reason why. There's got to be something in advance of that call. Yelp, Angie's List, or Groupon, again, very low trust type, ways, especially when you're selling IT services. Now, if you're a poodle clipping business, or you're a nail salon, or you're a restaurant, it's probably perfectly fine, but not for professional IT services or support. So how you get introduced is really important. So for example, if you do a telemarketing call and you're just cold calling someone saying, hey, we're an IT services company, and I want to see if I could get, my CEO could, meet with you for a couple minutes to talk over your IT needs. Not many people are going to be welcoming that. But let me give you another scenario. So like, this is Bob Mitchie. And I mentioned in having strategic partnerships and endorsement mailings and so forth. And Bob came to me looking for some ways to get in more doors. So he started doing cybersecurity seminars with insurance professionals, where the insurance company would invite all their clients in and he would do the presentation. The insurance company benefited because they would sell cybercrime or cyber liability, crime insurance or cyber liability insurance. And you could see he's got a full room, expert positioning. I mean, you can't ask for a better way of getting introduced. So another piece you want to think about is how you get introduced. Now, let me talk a little bit about the sales process, and then I'll hang around and answer questions if Michael and the team will have me. But, the key to trust-based selling, and my number one secret, is you got to stop trying to be a better salesperson. Instead, engineer your marketing and sales process so you're not perceived as a salesperson at all. Just like Bob Mitchie going out and doing cybersecurity seminars, just like being the author of a book. Because if you look at the polls, I mean, this is a Gallup poll, and they asked, tell me how you rate the honesty and ethical standards of the people in these different fields. Very high, average, low, or very low. And they rated it. So this is a Gallup poll, and you could see that nurses are at the top of the list: pharmacists, nurses, medical doctors. On the bottom of the list, car salesmen. And I could scratch out car, it could be salesperson. It's what's astonishing is that car salespeople have less trust than members of Congress, than politicians. So this is why you do not want to position yourself as a salesperson or act like a salesperson in any way. And so if you look at typical sales guy versus trusted advisor, typical sales guy, very product service focused, where the advisor is going to be more focused on here's the results. The typical sales guy is going to market sales and products, where an advisor is going to be always talking in end results. Salespeople are experts on their products or services, where the trusted advisor is the expert on the client's business or the topic. Salespeople are focused on making the sale. Advisors are focused on educating the client to help them make the best possible decisions. Salespeople very transaction-minded. Trusted advisors very relationship-minded. And the typical sales guy is forced to sell on price, where an advisor is able to sell on value and get command whatever fees he or she wants. Again, because the positioning is right. So there's 10 ways I want you to see. This is how people know that you're a salesperson. So for example, if you promote and talk about IT versus business results, if we do managed services, antivirus, cybersecurity, voice over IP, see, you're talking about the product or service, you got to talk about the results. Marketing material, so an expert has a book, salesmen have brochures. Willingness to cave on fees and terms or advice, again, that's salesperson behavior, haggling, negotiating, being too eager to sell, trying to rush the sale. That's why I like my clients to slow down and do an assessment first, because prescription without diagnosis is malpractice, but also because you want to slow the sale down. If you look like you're just starving, it's needy, that is also very off-putting. Little to no diagnostic before selling, which I just talked about. Off-the-shelf products versus a perceived custom solution. So you don't have to customize every solution, but if it if it presents it that way, then it's going to feel more like to the customer that you took into consideration their needs, their budget, their situation. Evading questions or appearing squeamish about price is salesperson behavior. Nervousness in any form, no assistant or gatekeeper or people who handle that. So you want to get an admin who's going to help you, because a busy, in-demand professional advisor is never going to be scheduling their own appointments. They're not going to be doing that lower level work. So that's positioning. And appearance. Don't show up in your logo shirt. And I know a lot of IT guys that go to seminars, they like their polo shirts with their logo on it. Not good. You look like a tech. So you want to show up in a suit or a jacket. Very professional. Let your techs wear the logo shirt. That's fine. But you as the owner, or if you are the salesperson, you can't look that way, because it immediately says salesperson. All right. So if you want to have success in selling, it really is about perceived positioning. And if you want to stop being treated like a salesperson, getting blocked and screened and lied to and beat up over price, then stop acting like one. So to position yourself, have someone who schedules and confirms your appointments. Don't take inbound calls on your cell phone. You want to answer your phone live, but not by you personally. All calls have to be scheduled to meet with you. Don't ever just let, somebody just call you and you're like, hey, I'm wide open on Friday or Thursday for that matter. Just pick a time, anytime. It works for me, because that's not good. Bad positioning. All emails and communications should be through your administrative assistant. The other thing is you want to have a confident process, a sales conversation, not a pitch. So don't be quick to discount or add bonuses to get a deal closed. Slow it down, have a conversation, be comfortable, and no weirdness or games when you're talking about your fees. I would even bring it up as a point of qualification, a little bit of takeaway selling, have them qualify to you, not vice versa. So if you want to know what do you want to do now, I would recommend you go online and download these 12 pillars. When you do that, the slide deck is up there and you can get that. And I think I think Michael, you're making the recording available as well. So that's it. Michael, what questions can I answer for this wonderful audience?
Well, great stuff. And yes, we will be sending out a link afterwards with the follow-up information and recording info. It's interesting. One of the earlier slides, it's probably one of the most amusing slides about the Gallup poll and the least trusted jobs. And I know you presented that really as a cautionary tale, like don't be on the low end, but I look at that too, and I want to hear what you think, as I think that's actually a very actionable info on there. If you, because I'm looking at it right now, that data I have off to the side here, the highest ranks, are like medical, people that keep you alive, engineers, right? People that hook things together that work, police officers, people that keep you safe. That's our audience's job too, right? So if you almost take advantage of that and use that in your marketing and go, that's all that is about trust. You trust those people to keep you alive or to heal you. You trust them to keep you safe, keep things up and running. To avoid being sort of minimized as that salesperson, I like the idea of, when you build trust and maybe in your marketing efforts and in your proposals, I know you can't call them proposals, but in your action plans or whatever, you lead with that. Like, think of us as the people that heal you, that keep you safe from cyber threats, that keep your employees up and running, your whole business up and running, because that's what we do. Our services are all about that. It's like that proactive stuff. Your business is important. We want to be your partner, and we want you to trust us for that. I think that goes a lot further than like that postcard you referenced earlier, like wefixbrokenstuff.com or whatever. So
yeah.
just wondering what you thought on that.
Yeah, no, Queen Elizabeth had a quote, and it was, and the quote was, if you have to explain to somebody you're a lady, you probably aren't. And so I like the idea of what you're saying, to tell them that, but prospects are going to pick up on that based on how you act. Right. So if you are cold calling, or you're spam emailing them and then cold calling them, or you are showing up in that logo shirt and you're acting nervous and you're acting like a typical salesperson, you're emailing them a quote. See, you can't say, trust us with your life. We're professionals. We're people who protect you, and then act differently, because you can't talk yourself out of a way that you've acted yourself into. We know that from politicians. They can stand on stage and both sides. I don't care how you fall politically, because they're all a bunch of liars. That's my safe default, right? They all do it. They say one thing and then they act completely incongruent. And that's what breaks trust. It's the incongruent behavior with what's coming out of your mouth versus how you are acting. And so, it's all well and good to say it, but act it, and then you don't even have to say it, because then it's assumed.
Excellent, excellent. Another question that's come in about, you presented a lot of great information today, and frankly, some of it's, it takes a lot of prep work, a lot of experience to do. But so someone's asking, how do I determine if I need to hire someone to do those things, to run my marketing, or maybe just outsource it to someone else? What kind of guidance do you give? Like, how much to invest in? Is it in a staff person or hiring an agency or something like that?
Well, okay, so maybe even giving you a little history lesson of how I started my company and what we do and why we do it is important, because it is instructive. So my background is being in sales, but for marketing agencies. And so most marketing agencies, you would think, have, because they're a marketing company, the automatic assumption is that they are motivated and competent in helping you generate sales. And that is absolutely not the truth at all. In fact, I was always surprised by that, because I left one firm to work for a bigger firm thinking that, I was going to learn how the right way to do it, and they were worse than the smaller firm in this regard. So what most, and I'm saying most, I don't want to make a definitive, blanket statement, but most, and I'm talking majority, 99% of marketing firms, what they are glorified fulfillment firms. In fact, most marketing firms, they don't, first of all, they don't want to work with a small business. Like, I don't know who's asking it, but if you don't even have a marketing manager, you're a small business. And most marketing firms aren't even going to touch you, because they want to work with a big firm. And what they basically are the outsourced, quote unquote, marketing department. But what they're doing is graphic design and media buy, and they're, printing stuff up, and they're graphically designing stuff, and they're sending out the mail. But they are not strategy people. They are fulfillment. And there's a difference, right? It's the difference between the guy who architect the blueprint of my home versus the bricklayers outside who are putting brick. I don't go to the bricklayer and say, design my house, right? Now, if you say you wave a check in front of them, I'm sure a bricklayer would say, sure, what the hell, we'll take a stab at it. But you don't want to, but that's what most marketing firms are. They are not the engineer. They are the bricklayers, the drywallers, the electricians. And are they necessary? Yeah, of course they're necessary. But don't go to them thinking you're going to hire them and they are going to drive strategy, because they don't. They don't have copywriters. They don't, just here's a simple trick. Ask the marketing firm, how are you going to create my marketing campaigns? And most of them will say, well, we give it to our creative department, and they'll come up with some ideas and concepts, and we'll talk to you, and we'll talk to your employees. How many of them will actually say, we will interview 12 to 20 of your customers to figure out what your unique selling proposition is, to figure out what the market is? How many of them will actually analyze and look at and secret shop your competition to see where you fit strategically in the overall landscape? How many will actually look at your market size? See, the reason I started my company is that's the thing I saw no small business owner had. They didn't have the strategy piece right. They didn't know who their target market was. They couldn't define a unique selling proposition. They didn't know how to build all these marketing templates. So when I started my company, I did the flip. So we don't do a lot of done for you. We do some. So we do like newsletters and websites and stuff, but we mostly educate small business owners on what good marketing is, how it should be done. Because when you're small, I'm telling you, you're far better off you owning the strategy, because the strategy piece is the leadership. It's the piece that you can't delegate or outsource, which is who specifically is our target market, What is our business model? What is our pricing model? How do we make money around here? What is our core strategic advantage? Which we also call unique selling proposition. And so you as the CEO need to strategically decide what that is and then go build the company. No marketing firm is going to do that for you, and no marketing manager that you hire is going to do that for you. But so that is where we help clients. We help them with that kind of consulting, right? Then the second piece I'd say is you do want to hire a marketing admin, like a lower, because there's different levels, just like in tech, right? Think of it like a level 1 tech, right? You want to hire a level 1 marketing manager who can do a lot of the implementation work, like getting things designed and printed and proofread and get your list organized and work in your CRM to set it up and just send out campaigns. Because you know what you will pay for outsourced, most of you you're throwing money away. You're better off to have an admin start with you, and if you're going to outsource any piece or get advice, then that's what I would say. You know, it's just a shameless plug, but you know that's what our organization does. Further, we also provide the systems, the tools, the templates, like everything I showed you here. This is all the templates and tools and training that we give our clients. So like the shock and awe box and the book, I mean, all that is generated by us. And because we work with so many IT firms, we really know what the psychology of the buyer is, how the buying process happens, and that's what puts us in a unique position. So, you know, I throw my name in the hat if you're looking for some help there. Obviously, you're going to talk to other firms, but you really do got to be careful who you take advice from. Because again, if you go to like a social media marketing firm, they're gonna say the answer to every problem is social media. Or if you go to an SEO company, they're gonna say, well, the answer to your marketing problem is you need a better SEO plan. And all that might be true, but if you can't articulate to me your strategic business plan, which is who's my customer, what's our financial model, how will we make money, what is our unique differentiator, what's our strategic competitive advantage, our unique selling proposition. If you can't strategically map out, here's how we get in the door, here's how we land, expand, and colonize, meaning, you know, you get in the door and then you ascend and develop that customer. See, those are strategy pieces. Most low-level marketing managers really don't know how to do that. You know, so that is something that you will want to seek some advice on, and you need to own as the owner.
Excellent. Great stuff today. And we've got the URL up on the screen. And also, if attendees are looking over in a chat area, there is a direct link there where they can go and download that. Robin, great stuff today. Really appreciate you being here. We had a great turnout, and they stuck through to the end. Any parting advice before we wrap things up?
You know, I just encourage them to, you know, check out our website. We've got a lot of free resources out there, audio, video, downloadable reports, you know, and if they want to, if they're curious about working with us and maybe what we can do, and actually if they want to see an example of a shock and awe box, you know, they can sign up for a free one-on-one consultation with us. The only thing we ask is that you are an MSP or an IT services firm. That's number one. And number two, that you're the owner of the firm, because these consultations are rather time intensive, and we get into strategy discussions. Like if you're a marketing manager, we'd love to do this with you, but drag your CEO with you, because it really is about strategy and financial metrics and your financial model and your business model and who's your target market. And if you're a marketing manager, you're just going to say, I got to go talk to the owner. So it's not a productive meeting. And we've done thousands of these. So if you are the CEO of an IT services firm, you could go to technologymarketingtoolkit.com and you could sign up for one of those one-on-one consultations. And as part of that, we'll actually send you our shock and awe, which, you know, does have a lot of good information. It's not just a bunch of marketing fluff. I mean, yeah, there's testimonials and overviews, but you know, things like I've got a really good audio in there on how to double or triple the number of clients through lead generation in there, and that's free. And what to spend on marketing. There's a report I wrote on what MSPs, IT service firms should be budgeting for marketing, and I guarantee it's something that a viewpoint that you have not thought about and never heard before, and you will not hear it from most people. And you know, and there's even our sales playbook overview, because we talked a lot about sales today. You know, what has to go into your sales playbook? What the heck is a sales playbook? So there's a lot of value in there, and you know, it's no obligation. You're going to learn something. You're going to get some free stuff, and you can get more details on that on technologymarketingtoolkit.com.
Excellent. All right. Robin Robbins, founder of Technology Marketing Toolkit and Channel Rockstar, thanks very much for being here. And on behalf of everybody at the Channel Pro Network, I want to thank you all for being here today. Again, we're going to be sending out links and follow-up information. It's Friday afternoon. We greatly appreciate everybody being here, and hopefully you've got a lot of good advice that you can begin working on immediately. Robin, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Okay, take care, everybody. We're going to wrap up there. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye now.